and politics. It's time to get beachy. Conrad is our political analyst and master chess instructor. So contact Conrad to appear on our show. Jose Cruz is our bilingual beach bully, our bilingual business bully. Contact him to feature your business on our show. I'm Seko Varner. I have consulting, entertainment, and credit repair services. I produce the Beach Brothers Show. We want to give a salute to Tally and Twine. It's time for you to have a high quality watch made in Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia, from Tally and Twine. We want to say thanks to Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier for their great level of sponsorship. If you need a new car, you don't need to go far. Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier. And ladies, if you want your brows to say, wow, check out IamLitaWee.com. Microblading by IamLitaWee.com. I'm Seko Varner. I do credit fixes, tax resolutions. I lend private money to real estate investors, and we do debt consolidations. If you need any of these services, contact me as provided. And now it's time to get beachy on the Beach Brothers Show. All right, and tonight we're in with the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. We're back in with the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. I'm Seko Varner. Salute to all the 757 in the Hampton Roads area. We love y'all. I'm here with my good brother Conrad. How you doing, Conrad?
Good evening, good evening. I'm doing pretty well. I got in a couple runs today, so I feel refreshed.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, one good thing about our area is a lot of great places to do runs. I actually run in my neighborhood, and there's just a lot of great spaces in my area where I can just go for a jog near Green Run area. It's just beautiful, man. Salute to Virginia Beach.
I originally went to Lansdowne, and it got a little covered and residue left behind by a bunch of geese. So I decided to go on over to Salem, and then I ran repeats of 800 meters. So I'm trying to get into a mode where I get to running a mile and then I'll reduce my mile time. That's my goal for 2021.
All right. Well, tonight is kind of a interesting mix. We're going to deal with Hampton Roads Black Caucus, and we're waiting for you, Ron. The good brother Ron Taylor was supposed to be on with us, and I'm sure he's going to join us as we deal with a couple of topics. You know, we had talked about discussing the local election results, Sabrina Wooten's bid for vice mayor, and the endorsements and the 2021 elections. So, you know, as we're waiting for Ron, why don't we talk about this Joe Lindsay situation? So what has happened with Joe Lindsay? You know, salute to Joe Lindsay for all the hard work he did in serving our area. But what's up with Joe Lindsay, and why is Norfolk in an uproar right now?
Well, to my knowledge, HD90, House District 90, encompasses mostly parts of Norfolk, almost all parts of Norfolk with a little bit of Virginia Beach thrown in. And Joe Lindsay was definitely the honorable server there for a little while. I think he is now moving on to become a judge. So it's definitely moving from the legislative branch over to the judicial branch of the state. And now there's a little bit of a fight, if you will, to try to take over that seat. And I think that they're about to have around December 5th, if I got the date correctly, what is known as a firehouse primary to try to pick some people to run on the Democrat mantle for Mr. Lindsay's seat. And it'd be pretty nice if we can get some of them on before that time.
All right. So for the uninitiated, what is a firehouse election or run, whatever it is?
It would be slightly different than what we would typically think of in terms of a non-COVID year, because literally only members of a party would go to a place like a firehouse, all meet, and then they would do their own little caucus in order to determine who they all select to be the nomination of that party toward a seat. So that has become over the years the name of it, the firehouse little primary, which I think now would have to be done online.
Interesting. So if the D's, your fellow D's are going to do their own firehouse election selection, I'm assuming that the R's are going to do the same thing.
I just haven't heard too much from that particular side, and I would like to try to follow the Republican side as well. This seems like a good chance to pick up a seat because it's now vacant, and there's not the allure of incumbency. This could be a good shot for the Republicans to get in 2021 with, House District 90. So I'm going to try and study up as much as I can to see who said candidates may be.
Okay, yeah, I've heard two names floating around. So why is this seat so important? I realize that every seat is important. And one of the things that we do on the show, particularly with the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, is we want to make sure that the general population, the general public, is more politically engaged and politically aware. So why is Joe Lindsay's seat important?
I would have to gather that it probably has to do with being, he's probably been there for multiple times, and I think that seat is seemed solidly Democrat. And if it seemed as solidly Democrat, and then suddenly someone who's been there for a while isn't there, suddenly that could be something that the Republicans could use to take back over the House of Delegates. Because remember that the Democrats only got the entire state of Virginia's majority as recently as 2019. So it could swing immediately the other way if you pick up a couple of extra seats, and House District 90 could be one of those if it used to not be seen as possible. Probably is now.
And what does that seat encompass? It encompasses a little bit of Virginia Beach, a lot of Norfolk. Does it tap into Portsmouth as well?
No, I've looked it up, and I think I only saw the two cities were Norfolk and Virginia Beach, but I tried today to find, just like on Google Images, a map of just the district, and I couldn't find it. I have seen it before, but today my search didn't do too well, so I'm trying to see what part of Virginia Beach actually is included in it, because that means that the Virginia Beach Democratic Party should have a say, at least if a little bit, for who might be able to represent too, so that firehouse primary, maybe throw a couple of Virginia Beach representatives that way, because literally that seat represents at least some of Virginia Beach.
That's intriguing. In other Virginia Beach news, a friend of the show, Sabrina Wooten, councilperson Sabrina Wooten, has actually thrown her hat in the ring for vice mayor. Mm-hmm. Am I correct?
Vice mayor, and which I think is a position that is solely picked by the council members themselves. I don't remember the last time that it was thrown to the council, if anyone was there to go to try to advocate for any particular person. I know the current person is Council Member Wood, who is the vice mayor. Prior to that, it was Lewis Jones in the year in which Will Sessoms resigned, because that was the year he briefly became mayor, because he was vice mayor at the time. So this is definitely something to look forward into the whole process. But I do know that she is interested in becoming vice mayor. I always told myself if I was to not only run, but to run and win for council, that I wouldn't want to be vice mayor, because I've seen them in council. They're the ones who read the most stuff. I don't want to spend 20 to 30 minutes just reading off procedure for simply a title. But I think it would probably, the image would be particularly important to see that this is how much the city could be changing down the line, that suddenly something as prestigious as a vice mayor could be something Sabrina Wooten can get. So I'm very intrigued by that.
Right. So from the optics, we both live in the beautiful city of Virginia Beach, beloved beach. Mm-hmm. The optics of having a Black vice mayor, mm-hmm. What does that do for the city in terms of awareness, prestige, valor, recognition outside of the Hampton Roads area?
I'm not entirely sure how much it might switch the prestige angle, but it would definitely seem refreshing. Hey, look, Virginia Beach is suddenly a little bit more inclusive than we previously thought, which is to say that it just seems like that is a body that has been not necessarily just white, but also a little older. So you throw that together, and then suddenly have more inclusion over the past 2 years with not only Wooten herself, but also Mr. Rouse. And then she suddenly becomes vice mayor. that it's a shift that is suddenly seeming quicker than used to be thought possible. And I like to think that being vice mayor means things that she might want to get done, she would have a little bit more say into getting done. So I think it could be positive. I would like to look into the possibility of her doing that.
Now, are there any of the other people who are on city council whose names are being thrown around? And for those viewers, if you want to pop in and leave your comment, leave your question, Conrad, he's our Politico. So we want to talk about politics. He's the man. You want to talk about empowerment? I'm that dude. Okay. So is there anybody else on their hat in the ring for this vice mayorship?
I haven't heard of anyone new, and by the words new, I think it's just Jim Wood and Sabrina right now. And I've seen a couple on Facebook. For instance, friend of the show, former guest Jimmy Frost, who's already come up and saying that he wants to support Jim Wood. So the onus now would be to get a groundswell of community effort, perhaps to rally behind Sabrina and show that maybe that could be something that the city could try to advocate for either side. Though I've never heard of vice mayor being something the city cared that much about before. And maybe that's a good thing that we could make it so.
So, what could the community do if they're in support of Sabrina becoming a vice mayor? And conversely, if they want to continue with Jim Woods?
Well, this is definitely where they would have to not only email the city council at VB.gov, they also, if you have the ability to reach them in person, because remember, you're advocating not the people, you're advocating the representatives of the people, the rest of city council. So if you're able to call, reach, Facebook message, email, fax, telephone, members of council, and you say, you know what, I really want Jim Wood to be still on as vice mayor, go ahead and do that. If you want Sabrina to become vice mayor, you got to put forth those efforts. And you show that there's a groundswell of effort in the community for either status quo or a new go. And that definitely means that we would need to step up in order to do that, because maybe they already had their mind made up for another year of Jim Wood. And then it's a good thing to suddenly see someone throw their hat in the wind with Sabrina.
Well, I'd say it would be an interesting level of, it might be superficial, but optical representation.
I would think so.
It would be an interesting piece of optical representation. Now, we all know that as things are now, we may have a black woman, a woman of color, a black and Indian woman, whatever title you want to throw at her, who may be the VP in the White House. And that has a lot of people just flipping, I know my AKA sisters are, they stomping hard. They're stomping the yard hard right now. I'm not so sure, however, if that's really representation or if it's just repping. I'm not sure if that's somebody just saying I'm down rather than somebody putting in the groundwork and, getting down in the weeds and doing the work.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, if Sabrina becomes vice mayor, that means she's suddenly more representative of any particular community than she already was. Because remember, that came to she got about 103,000 or so votes in order to beat Mr. Eric Ray. That was what made her someone who represents the people. Becoming vice mayor isn't necessarily going to make you any more of a representative thing. It's more of a title. And it would be good to see that someone like Sabrina could have that title. But it's not necessarily going to mean that she's more representative than she already was, because she's still going to be on council for the exact 1 out of 11 vote power that she has.
Right. But she'll be on council with a higher title, so could we see pictures of little black girls staring at the TV and saying, that's my vice mayor?
Possibly, because I say possibly because I don't really know how many times we will look at the TV now and point out Jim Wood and say he's our vice mayor. It just means that we don't have a lot of representation on our media platforms of people who are literally representing us. That could be something to say that maybe council needs to get on the ball to be a little bit more visible.
All right. Well, there have been some politics in the city of Virginia Beach that are in some ways dividing lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we talk about police reform, there are very few, whites in Virginia Beach who are like, yeah, let's do it. But there are a lot of people of African descent, Black people, and other people of color, our Latino brothers and sisters in particular, who would say, yeah, there needs to be some big reform around policing, not just in the United States of America, but in our fair city of Virginia Beach, Virginia. I know that Sabrina received a lot of pushback because, Eric falsely claimed that, she was a defund the police type person.
and that's weird because you got to remember she is a police chaplain. She knows her way around the police, and then he's trying to put that albatross around her neck. It doesn't fly.
Yeah, that black on black crime that we saw in the Ray Wooten race was kind of cray. Salute to Eric though. Salute, Eric. You're my dude. You're a little cray, but you're my dude.
Hey, still got over 85,000 votes, if I recall. So he's definitely has a good chunk of the city that supported him.
Absolutely. So when I would look at a Jim Wood or Sabrina Wooten, as a Black person, as a person of African descent and indigenous descent here in, Virginia Beach, I have to start looking at the politics of, we want this citizens review panel to have subpoena and investigatory powers.
Mm-hmm.
Where is Jim on that? I know where Sabrina is on that.
I've been to a couple of the Republican Party breakfasts when I was able to be off on Saturday mornings, in which Jim was there to just give a talk. A very pleasant, good speaker. But he has seemed, the atmosphere around him, that he's a little hesitant to get on board with police reforms, partly because I guess he thought that we are already so good as a Virginia Beach Police Department compared to others around the country. Of course, you got to remember of the line from Black Panther where his sister said that just because something works doesn't mean it can't be made better. You're always going to want to try to improve something. And it's always seemed like that is the thing that is a government entity that we would like to improve how it does what it does. Police reform is simply reforming police. That's why people like myself who might get a little charged with someone who would defund the police, that is a branding term taken out of context, used by someone like Mr. Ray against Ms. Wooten as a way to try to take votes off of her. And in the end, nothing is accomplished.
Inaccurately, I might state. Eric, yeah. I don't know if that was your choice, Eric, but that was a lie, and it was just wasn't right, brother. And I expect, and we know you to be better than that. We know you to be better than that, good brother. Yeah, but I would say that the Black community in Virginia Beach, in particular, the Black community in Hampton Roads, in a larger sense, the quote unquote community of color, in a larger sense, if there is one, I doubt it, but if there is one, then, many of us have said, hey, we need to have an improved experience with policing. Now we had somebody who left a comment in one of the other conversations that said, leave the police alone. We should focus on the criminals.
Think about it this way. We just had, and this isn't to take away from one of my favorite council people, John Moss, who is very open, very transparent. I like the way he does what he does, but he was providing commentary on the school board and how from year to year that they seem to have like a surplus amount of money that had been given to them. I think they tabulated something around $39 million, that he wanted to know how come it wasn't being allocated in a certain way. And maybe they need to do X and X and X to change that. And I'm like, hey, that sounds like defund the school board. And that's how you start off trying to negatively apply something that could have been seen as a positive. Maybe he had good ideas that he wanted the school board to do, which would possibly reduce his budget. That's debatable. But just like police reform is something that's debatable. If you're trying to end the debate by saying it's defunding and disbanding the police, then we're never going to get around to doing something like council person X says that, hey, we are going to reform the Citizens Review Board and apply subpoena power because they were scared out of doing anything because they were seen as being anti-police and defund the police. It's all branding.
Branding is, that's a good term for it. What's interesting to me is when there was no problem in defund Planned Parenthood because they thought it was something that was, that particular contingency believed that it was something that was not working. Exactly. So when something's not working, take money away from it. You're not going to fix it by throwing more money at it. We need an improved experience with some of our police officers. Mm-hmm. Can we fix it by throwing more money at it, Joe Biden? All right, let me get off that. That's what he wants to do. That's what Kamala wants to do.
And he tried to briefly label Trump as the defunder, which is weird because he was the one who, even compared to Biden, was very loving up on the concept of police departments. In a year, 2020, where you have seen the magnifying glass on police departments more than any year that I can recall in the past 10, 15 years. And Biden at that moment chose to try to label Trump as the defunder, showed you that he's not necessarily going to be that big on trying to help state and municipal police departments reform themselves. Which means
he said in the campaign, I'm for reforming the budgets by giving them billions more. That's crazy. But when we look at Jim Woods versus Sabrina Wooten has been involved with some of the conversations about the Citizens Review Board, has been involved in conversations about how investigative power for a Citizen Review Board would be beneficial, how subpoena power for a Citizen Review Board would be beneficial, not only to the Black community in Virginia Beach, but as a shining star, which could be the model for all other Virginia cities to follow. Because we can't expect politicians to police themselves.
I like how you phrase police themselves, because that's the point. We like to think that police, just like any other form of government, has a level of accountability built into their job status. And if other parts of the government and the private sector could have, again, accountability, a form of something that is made right because something was done wrong. If you don't see that in police departments, that is something that needs to be fixed. It's not eliminating the police, it's fixing the police. I think we may agree on this, that a Citizens Review Board simply existing isn't necessarily good enough, because that would be another thing that Mr. Wood might try to say, that, hey, we already have X and Y. But this is where we would jump in and say, well, it's not good enough because it needs Z, and Z being the subpoena power and a way to actually put checks on abuses of power. And that's how we got to, get better to talk to our respective council people, not just in Virginia Beach, but in Chesapeake and Norfolk, Suffolk, Portsmouth, stuff like this, because it'd be the whole community of Hampton Roads that would like to have this too.
Right. And to that end, on Tuesday, the next city council meeting, they have a work session. I don't want to get my terminology wrong, but they're having a work meeting or a work session, and they're going to deal with looking at some various methodologies for citizen review panels. And then on December 1st, it's one of the mayor's open mics. I was talking with the mayor earlier today, and it was one of the open mics. And on the open mic, if you have an interest, you can voice your opinion on that December 1st, I believe, city council. Hey, community oversight, we definitely need it. So whoever that Facebook user is right there, that person.
my eyebrow was like that. I'm like, I don't know who Facebook user is. But
it's a Russian troll. Okay. So they're on the same page. Whoever the Facebook user is, hey, we love you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, yeah. Oh. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Look, Vanjie and I are not always on the same page. So.
Well, I like that all three of us are on the same page.
I say to that. So yeah, Sabrina Wooten might have a different interest that would be supportive of the interests of the Black community, the community of color, if it exists, and all who are allies of said groups, in ways that Jim Woods might not. I'm not saying isn't. I'm not. I've talked to Jim a couple of times. I've always found him to be a very fair person, very intelligent person. He's really one of the more intelligent people I've met.
And I appreciate it because he's helped me in a couple things in the past too. So I'm not here to bash Jim Wood, and I wouldn't want to bash Jim Wood. He is himself serving the community in the way that he thinks is best. But then again, this is why we all have different people who are on council. They each have their own things that they would like to do. And I would like to think that perhaps Sabrina's voice could be elevated in a way by becoming vice mayor that she didn't previously have, and that could be a boon.
That could be. But yeah, salute to Jim Wood. He's been effective to the degree that he's been effective. You know, it might be interesting.
Have him on the show.
Oh yeah, we'd love to have you on the show, good brother. It might be interesting for us to juxtapose Jim's voting record to Sabrina's voting record. So on one infamous vote, Jessica Abbott, who was recently on the show, she's a friend of the show. Salute Jessica Abbott. I have to admit, when I first saw her, I was thinking Jessica Rabbit. Did you ever see who that okay, I'm gonna forget it. All right. Anyway. Jessica proposed that the citizens of Virginia Beach should determine if we're going to continue with the at-large system that we have for voting. And if I remember, Jessica promoted and saying, hey, I want to give the citizens the ability through a referendum to make a decision if they want to have at-large voting or a different style of voting. And Sabrina said, yes, let the community raise their voice and give their input through their vote. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Jim Woods was on the Mayor Dyer side that said, nah.
Also, my recent, I want to say challenger because I was the challenger, but the champion, Mr. Bellucci, was on that side as well.
All right. Hey, Bellucci's a friend of the Beach Brothers show. Salute to Brother Bellucci.
Love to have him on as well.
Yeah, you know what? I think we'll have to have him on now. Yeah.
We could take a hatchet if we even have a hatchet and bury it, even though we were never at odds. We just had different ideas.
You know, that's interesting because it looks like you and I have both been on the receiving side of a Bertolucci beatdown.
Twice for me, though.
Okay, I salute Bertolucci. Yeah, so Jim Woods didn't vote for the community to raise their voice. Sabrina Wooten voted for the community to raise their voice.
I don't remember if they had a public comment with which he supplied a public comment on that. I would have to go back and check the tape, but I would remember Jessica was making it seem like she just simply wanted the, again, as you said, the city to have its voice heard. But that would be how it sounded at the time, the extent of the defense of why it should happen in the first place. And I think the individuals who spoke at that, who were city members who weren't on council, they gave a little bit more full-throated defense. I particularly remember Mr. Samuel Small, who was pretty good at his defense too, local lawyer. So yeah, I would like to think that if given more time, they would want to defend themselves in a setting that isn't so clamped down as like the rules of a city council session, because I would want to see why they would want to choose it.
All right. Well, we're kind of talking, 757 Black politics.
Hmm.
Louise Lucas had a very favorable outcome. Am I correct?
I think, if I'm not saying this incorrectly, the charges were just simply dropped. Is that what that was? And not to say anything negative about Tim Anderson, but I guess not all suits are going to work out down the line just because you want to publicly. I think this is more of an attempt to humiliate as opposed to actually do anything criminal, and that failed.
Did Louise Lucas gain anything by this? You called it a failure.
Failure of the attempt to try to charge her with something. Now that this is dropped, now she's basically fully exonerated. She should get some bumps in public opinion with this, I would assume.
And this was all related to the vandalism and the removal and the torture of the Confederate statue that was in the city of Portsmouth, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that was mainly because on that night where the big crowd was around it, trying to deconstruct it themselves and putting graffiti on it and damaging parts of it too. Not that I particularly mind it being damaged. It's just that particular thing led to an injury of someone because it fell on someone. Hence, they would try to blame her for that because she allegedly helped instigate the crowd. And no, the crowd already wanted it down. And this has been going on for weeks because this is all a national fervor to try to not only, as we touched on earlier in the show, target police reform, but also relics to the past that need to be not seen as a relic anymore because they're that bad. And we had one right in the middle of the main street in Portsmouth. The crowd was the crowd, and she was there being, I guess, part of the people like she represents.
I've always found that intriguing. I worked in the fair city of Portsmouth, Virginia for 13 years in the school system. And I love Portsmouth. I cut my educational teeth there, as I say frequently. I actually wanted to move to Portsmouth for a while. It just never kind of worked out. I will be buying some investment properties there in the upcoming months. So I'll have my residency in Portsmouth, as we say. But during that time from 1992 for 13 years, the elders, the Black elders, the African American elders, the elders of African and indigenous descent, all spoke about how they felt ashamed, how they were bothered, how they were downright insulted by that statue. And I don't know if that necessarily, if that conversation went outside the color community. We often had closed doors conversations about it, but for years that I was there, I heard that repeatedly. But it's interesting that it took this generation to make the move where they're saying, you know what? Our grandparents said this is whack. Our great-grandparents said this is whack. Our parents said this is whack. This is an insult. And nobody has been listening to us. Mm-hmm. And then, it happens.
I would want to, I don't know if this is a troubling thought, but how much of a movement like that to not only take the one down in Portsmouth, but also one fell in Norfolk. They deconstructed that one. And right here in Virginia Beach at the municipal center, we took ours down. Would any of them be down if it wasn't for George Floyd? Because
I'll say Ashe to George Floyd. His murder changed a lot. I would dare say that during the Rodney King uprising, I had a few of my white brothers and sisters who I worked with who said, you know what? I've heard in this rap music that you guys have had problems with the police. Is that true? Yes. Okay. All right. Then that happened. And it's been like a steady awakening, I think. I talked to you about how Jeffrey Feld, who did a great job, good run, Jeffrey Feld, salute you. I hope you run again for the school board. The school board could benefit from you, Jeffrey Feld. I did say that. It's not an endorsement. I'm simply saying that they would benefit from him. He said that when he watched the show, what is it called, The Watchmen, he found out about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then I shared with him about what happened in 1906 in Atlanta, Georgia. And, there across our great, beautiful country, there are stories of white mobs coming and destroying primarily black townships and murdering black people and just walking away without having any issue. Blood's on their hands, nobody convicted. We talk about Martin Luther King being nonviolent, but he was also smart. After what happened on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, he hired the Deacons for Defense of Justice, which was a primarily black, although they had a white member, a primarily black gun club. And one of the leaders and founders of the Deacons for Defense of Justice killed a Klansman and went to court and won the court case. There's some famous pictures of him holding up the Klansman's headdress. So my point is, there have been things that the black community has been saying in the great country of America since emancipation, and it's been ignored repeatedly. And at some point, an act happens and everything boils over. And I would say to some degree, some of us who are, in my conservative guild are looking at it, it's like, where's this coming from? Why is this happening?
Always there.
Shouldn't you be happy? Haven't we done enough for you?
That would probably make it more insulting.
And so when we look at quote unquote black politics in the 757, I think that it's a great thing that with that statue coming down in Portsmouth, however it came down, with this statue being removed by the city council and the mayor in Norfolk, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And here too.
And right. I want to salute in Virginia Beach. I believe that deal was even brokered by Rosemary Wilson, where it was removed and then later placed in private hands. Right. So salute to Rosemary for doing that. Yeah, we took notice, Rosemary.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Yeah, friend of the show. She also received the endorsement of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. Did she receive the AAPAC endorsement? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So when we look at black politics in the Hampton Roads area, I dare say that there's going to be more people of African descent, indigenous descent, who are going to be standing up and saying that we want things different. And now we are starting to believe that we can make a difference. My parents shared with me that their parents didn't believe that the United States was ever going to let black people have the right to vote legally. It was just out of their consciousness. So when they were marching and they were protesting and they were doing the legal strategies they were involved in, their parents are like, this is stupid. This is dumb. This is a waste of time. You're going to get us all in trouble. You're going to have police knocking down our doors and kicking in our doors and hurting us. You need to shut up. And, Dr. King was even kicked out of his church for the work that he was doing in the civil rights civil rights movement, that time period. So I think there's an awakening that has happened. And now you're going to start seeing demands made. Ice Cube talked about the contract for Black America, which he released in June, because I talked about it in June. I talked about it in early July. First week in July, I talked about it. And that wasn't the only demand-laden strategy. But now I think it's going to happen here in the Hampton Roads area.
should we do our own contract?
Okay. What are some of the things that we could put on the contract?
And we would have to remember the fact that his contract was looking at a national scope. It was picked up, of course, famously this year by the Trump administration, which put some negative pushback toward ICE. But again, that was looking at it in a national scope. If we do this in the community of the 757, we're mainly going to have to deal with municipal governments and, of course, Dillon Rural State, Richmond. So this is going to take some, just as we coordination, but also literally trying to rise up and actually do a little bit more active lobbying. And I like that idea.
I do too. I actually see it coming to fruition. Let me ask this. What does the Dillon rule have to do with anything? Because I'm not sure if the uninitiated, when I'm saying the politically uninitiated, if you haven't dipped your toe and your foot and maybe up to your knee in the water of local politics, you may not know what the Dillon rule is. Go.
I'm going to try and paraphrase before I look it up here. Because I remember only a few cities actually, not cities, a few states actually do it. Dillon's rule is derived from the two courts decision issued by John F. Dillon of 1868. It affirms the previously held interpretation of a local government's authority in which a sub-state government may engage in activity only if it is sanctioned by the state government. Virginia is one of those. And paraphrase it down, basically says for a lot of cool stuff that Virginia Beach might want to do, Chesapeake might want to do, Norfolk might want to do, as a city themselves, they would actually have to have permission from the General Assembly first before they can do it. A highlight of this would be when we had everyone who would appear at Virginia Beach City Council because of the gun sanctuary city movement, because individual cities might have thought about things that they had wanted to curtail a little bit of gun rights, but only in that particular city. But they didn't have the power to do that yet because they needed Richmond's permission to even do that. So that's effectively what Dillon rule is. You need to ask your state capital's permission to do stuff and be granted the power to do it. Which is why if we want to do like a contract and come up with good ideas that we think would help communities, probably the cities aren't going to have the power to do it unless we also take the action to Richmond and allow it to even happen in the first place.
Okay.
Which I'm also for.
We have to get permission from daddy and mommy in the state of Virginia to make any substantial change here in the fair cities of the Hampton Roads 757 area.
This is why going into a state election year, we also need to put our magnifying glass right on who represents us in the state and what they're saying they want to do when they represent on the state. We've had a couple lieutenant governor candidates on the show. We, of course, want to reach out to governor candidates as well. But again, they're talking about stuff they want to do in state. We would also try to bring up things that we would want them to do on state, because then they might give us the power to do it in Virginia Beach and Norfolk, Chesapeake, Newport News, Hampton.
All right. So the fearless leader of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, which I'm a member of, which you're now a member of,
this morning,
has not joined us on the stream. Ron, we're waiting for you.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay. So click the link and join us, Ron.
Okay.
All right, so Ron will be on soon. Those of us who are waiting to hear from Ron. So, we've kind of talked about a couple of things, but I know that Ron is really going to bring home that local election conversation.
That's good.
Yeah, so we talked about Sabrina Wooten's bid for vice mayor. We slightly talked about demands and expectations as it applies to Hampton Roads Black community. And we need to talk a little bit about 2021. So, Virginia has an election every year.
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen and what's going to be on our November ballot, our November 2021 ballot?
There's no federal, there's no municipal, so it's all going to be state. And of course, I say municipal if someone decides to resign or something, then there'll be a special election, but focus mainly on the state. So you need to look up a very good thing, a good resource to have for people in the community is the Who is My Legislator app, which is mainly focusing on how to type in your address and find who represent you in the state. We are more of a 757 area show, and of course in Virginia Beach, we're not going to have, to my knowledge, state Senate races because I think that they were up last year in 2019. So it's just going to be the delegate races. Like House District 82, I'm represented by 21. Glenn Davis is trying to run for lieutenant governor, so I'm not entirely sure if he'll be able to do running for his current seat and the governor. I don't know if that's just going to mean that he abandons that and then someone else, perhaps a Democrat, could pick up that seat. We all need to look at who our state assembly people are because that's who are going to be running. Plus, we get a governor race this year, too. We get a lieutenant governor race this year, too. And this is something we all need to be looking forward to.
Okay. What else can we find on this particular website? So we're on the generalassembly.gov.
I'm trying to read it off of the screen's representation of this. I think you went past the Who's My Legislator part.
I think I did. Who's my legislator?
Yeah.
And it takes me to
it's
Virginia.
Still an offshoot of the overall website, but if let's say you type in my address, 811 Sedley Road. Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Sedley Road. I used to travel that space. Right, there was a teacher I used to date on Sedley Court back in the day, way back in the day, before I was married, way before I was married. I probably shouldn't even brought that up. I'm going to pay for that. You know how women have the secret society, the secret sorority. It's going to get back to her. I'm paying for. I guess I need to go ahead and buy some pizza now. Okay, Ron is having a challenging time getting on for some reason.
So
who knows?
Talking about it a little bit, I would be able in 2021 to decide whether or not I want to vote for current delegate Kelly Fowler. But my state senator, Bill DeSteff, I would not be able to vote for because their terms are 4 years, and he was up last year. The delegate seats are every 2 years, hence why I have another opportunity to vote for Kelly Fowler or whoever is a Republican who might want to run in that 21 seat. I haven't heard any names yet.
All right, what does a state delegate do for the uninitiated?
If we look at our congressperson, they represent a populace in the legislative branch of the federal branch of the federal government. This is the same thing when you think about our state government as a whole. There are 100 members of the General Assembly of Virginia. And of course, every 2 years, they all get to come up and vote again. But there are only about 40, if I recall, of the state senators. And it's a bicameral legislature. So there's a Senate group and there's a delegate group, and they get to go through committees, pass bills that hopefully get sent to a governor's desk to be signed into laws. For instance, in the news this week, Governor Northam has signaled that he is ready to help legalize marijuana, not just decriminalize, but legalize marijuana. Of course, it's weird that he would be saying this going into a race he can't run, because I think we're the only state that allows the governor to not serve back-to-back terms by running. So he would be going into his replacement trying to run on the idea of legalizing marijuana, which would be quite a progressive thing to do. But the bills would still need to come from the legislative branch. So the House of Delegates would create such a bill, Senate would approve it. Of course, they create their own. Then they do like a whole week where they mix and match the bills together and then send it over to the governor to sign. They do the same thing with the budgets, which I think is what they've been doing the past couple months in a special session, is how to reconcile COVID's effects on the state budget of Virginia. And that just took a lot longer than we expected them to. But I can't say this is why we pay them the big bucks, because they're actually not that well paid when you think about it. I think a state delegate only makes like $18,000 a year.
Right.
The city council members, they make 28 in Virginia Beach. So, and state delegate is actually more prestigious than a city council person. It shows you how, because you're representing state government versus a city government, you can't really say there's money in politics at the payment level of the person. It's all the other backdoor stuff. That's where the corrupting power of money goes. You definitely don't go into state and local government in order to get rich.
But you will get rich, or you can.
You can get rich if the backdoor stuff happens, which that is why we need more transparency in government. Follow what the money does of donations and stuff. And are there any sweetheart deals that any ex-delegate or senator or council person gets because that they are in a level of power?
Right.
Could be. That's the stuff that we, the citizens, need to look for.
Okay. Ron's having a little challenge. Tell us then what the state senators do, because I'm not sure if many of us know what our senators do.
They have, they create their own laws too. They don't create the law, they create their own bills, and the House creates their own bills, and then they need to sort of have an agreement as to certain things that could get passed and then become an official thing that's brought to the governor to sign to become a law. They're both competing versions of, well, not competing, distinct bodies of the overall legislative branch. Bicameral simply means that there's two bodies of it. It's state senate, as if we looked at the map, it would be a little bit larger of an area that's covered by a state senate versus the House district. And they're all designed in the weird ways that they are designed every 10 years. But again, there's only 40 of them versus 100 of them of the House delegates. But they more or less do the same type of legislative process where they are the brains behind the laws that are going to be sent to the governor to become official laws. And of course, we then have our third level of government, the judicial branch, but that's a whole different level entirely.
Okay. Before you continue, I want to give a shout out to our show sponsors. You know, we couldn't do this show without our sponsors. So let's start with our biggest sponsor, Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier.
Southern Volkswagen and 1248 South Military Highway is where you can get a nice, like I have, Jetta to go cruising around town in. Of course, it's my daily car. When I went running in the day, I took the Jetta in order to get there. When I went to Lansdowne, Jetta. When I went to Salem, Jetta. When I went to work at the beach today and went over all these crazy roads that we have here in Virginia Beach, I was safe in my Jetta that I got in 1248 South Military Highway. If you want to get yourself a nice car just like that, a round town car that is safe to drive in, go to South Military Highway 1248, speak to Cynthia Rawlings and Charlie Roy and get yourself a nice little car.
All right, do that. And if you're one of our great real estate investors in the area, this is a deal that I recently did that the owner said, put my picture out there, put the picture of the house out there. So this particular real estate investor purchased a property from his family for $33,000 and needed $58,000 in repairs. I provided 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab costs. And if you're a real estate investor, I'll do the same for you. So my contact information is right there, and I look forward to working with you. And we also look forward to Ron joining us.
Was he driving or something?
Who knows? But we've already almost gone about an hour. So
yeah,
we may have to reschedule this one. but we got a chance to go through, the situation with Sabrina Wooten slightly. We talked about some of the demands and expectations process that we might do in the Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads, area, the 2021 elections. And I'm glad you said that. In 2021, we are going to be looking at the delegates. So if you don't know much about your state delegate, if you don't know who Kelly Fowler is, look her up, start doing your research, and make a determination if this is somebody that you should support.
Don't forget, we also have great delegates like Alex Askew, neighboring district, Nancy Guy, Jason Miarez, Barry Knight. That's in Virginia Beach, Glenn Davis. Again, I mainly know their names because they're Virginia Beach politics.
Right.
So
keep talking, brother. Keep talking.
I would also want our Norfolk residents who watch this show and Chesapeake residents to look theirs up too. Remember, you got to type your address into them. You get to see who your delegate is, and then you could then have a link that takes you to the General Assembly website, and you can see their voting history and bills they've co-sponsored. That's how you know if you're actually being well represented or not.
Right. I was just talking with our good brother Ron, and we found out what the source of his issues were. And when he joins us, we're going to have a chance to talk about the elections and the Hampton Roads Black Caucus's endorsements. So I guess that'll be hour 2 on a 45-minute show.
It's good to know we can make a 45-minute show into 58 minutes.
Well, there's a lot that needs to happen. There's a lot that needs to happen. I would say for the entire community, the entire Hampton Roads to become more politically savvy, I would dare say that most of us who voted in the November 3rd election were voting for or against Trump, or voting to put Kamala Harris in office. And there were even some who were voting to put Joe Biden in office. And I think that's, it was either for or, pro or con Trump, or to put Kamala Harris in office, or possibly for Biden. And then you had a few of us, who voted for the libertarian option, Jorgensen. And then we also had, salute to the independent, we had the
Thomas.
Yeah. Jay Thomas. Simmons,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Jade Simmons. And she did a great job. She may come back. We'll have to see. Joe Jorgensen may come back. What happens with the libertarians? Because they didn't crack that 4%, 5% threshold.
I'm trying to think if this was a lost opportunity, because this is a particular year for anti-ness. And if you have a lot of anti-ness, you're also going to have a lot of not willing to vote for either side. And as someone who's voted a lot for libertarians, we would always like to have thought that this actually is something that we could vote for, because those are our policy planks that we want to see in action. I remember earlier in the year when they were doing their primary, we actually had a larger named individual in terms of prestige and seriousness. What they had done in their past, Justin Amash, who was a congressman in Michigan, who was putting in his name to run for the libertarian ticket. And he was very good at being the congressperson, in much the same way that John Moss and Jessica Abbott are good at being a council person, because you get to see in real time what they do. They're constantly open about their thought processes and why they vote the way they do. And like, if you put that type of person into the Libertarian Party, you have a good chance to crack that 5%. It just didn't work out. He didn't even make it through the primary. Then we had, and this isn't to take away from Joe. It would not have been as high of a profile to start. And then you have everyone seemingly focused on either Trump or Biden anyway, and it could not gain steam. Even in 2016, when it was Gary Johnson, he was a 2-term governor. So he already had some experience behind him other than being a professor, which isn't to take away from someone who is simply a professor who wanted to go into office. But you have a better starting point if you're already in government, like Gary Johnson was or Justin Amash was.
Okay. Well, here, Ron is going to join us at a later date. Technical issues. So, as we wrap up, we want to say this thing. Get engaged, get involved. I'll say this. If you're a person of African descent, if you're a Black person in Hampton Roads, then we want you to join the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. We're going to be making some interesting moves in the Hampton Roads area. And the Hampton Roads Black Caucus has been around for a number of years. So if you go to the website, then you can join. It's only $50, but your membership will activate political engagement. And we really need every organization to have a representative that's involved with the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. So your fraternity, your chapter, your church, your synagogue, your mosque, your house of worship, if you're involved in EFI, whatever. Your step team, your basketball team, your baseball team, most of the politicians in Hampton Roads are involved, and there's a reason for that. Now we need to get the citizenry of Virginia Beach, of Portsmouth, of Suffolk, of Norfolk, of Hampton, of Newport News, of Suffolk. We need to get you involved. Even Williamsburg, we got you. Get involved. And we'll have the good brother Ron Taylor, president of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, on at another time. Maybe we can even get the vice president, the beautiful Angela Davis. Maybe we can even get Angela Davis on. Hold on for just hey, what do you think about what I just said? Do you think that's important for people to do, Conrad?
As you were saying that, I was thinking of a metaphor. How they say that one of the most detrimental things you can do, right on par with smoking for your personal health, is to just be sedentary, to basically have a life where you don't be very active. That is just as bad for your health as something like smoking. The same could actually be said for politics. If you don't have a lot of activity in it and you're sedentary, then that's going to be detrimental to the health of civics around you because you're not taking part. If poly is the people need to be active.
If poly is the people
need to be active.
When I hear poly, I think Polly wants a cracker. Are we talking about two different polys?
The root word of politics being poly. Hey, Mr. Ron.
How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
All right. I apologize for the technical difficulty. How's everyone this evening?
Everyone is great. Everyone is great. So we're at hour 2, and look, it's your time to shine. Talk to us about the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, and talk to us about the elections. Why did the elections turn out the way they did? Let's start with the city of Norfolk.
Well, Norfolk didn't have the election, right?
That was
absolutely.
May, right?
So we'll move on to the city of Portsmouth.
Norfolk, their election was back in May.
Right.
Okay, let's go ahead.
All right, P-Town, take it to P-Town.
You talking about what level? The mayor?
Let's start at the mayor, and we'll drop down to the city council. Then
the mayor, Shannon was a very good candidate. He was well known in the community, and you had about 5 or 6 individuals competing for that seat, and some of them was already on the city council that was bidding for the mayor. And I think that the mayor-elect Shannon Glover was very connected in the community and did a lot of grassroots things in there. And the other thing was, individuals was when you got that many individuals in a one seat race, and it really, it's hard because you got so many and the votes are split. So that's why you had that. And the main reason was his grassroots effort and his work in the community.
Now, was Shannon
and Portsmouth was seeking change. There was a lot of controversy in that race because Goodwin, who was running for mayor, his signs was being destroyed up and down High Street, and so it was all kinds of irregularities for his signs being destroyed, being replaced, and stuff of that nature.
We had Goodwin on the show.
Yeah,
we did.
Yeah, and his signs was getting destroyed, and being destroyed up and down High Street and other places. Mm-hmm.
Was Shannon Glover endorsed by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus?
Yes, the mayor-elect was endorsed by the Hampton Roads Black Caucus. Seemed like he was overwhelmingly endorsed by them, by our membership.
Okay. Tell us about that process. How did the Hampton Roads Black Caucus endorse the mayor-elect?
Well, you go through the process. The way the process works is that, we have a questionnaire, you send it out to them, and they have to respond. And then the independent surveyor send it out, and then it sends it to the members. And then the members read. The member is supposed to read their response to the candidates, and then some of them we provided their website so they can go there and get a better acquaintance and see what that platform is about. But also you had our mayoral debate, and so they got to hear the debate of the candidates, and then once that the information or the response of the candidates was sent out to our membership then voted based, and they only get one vote. And so they punched his ticket.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the independent surveyor collected all of it and then sent it to myself and Bill, our secretary, and we certified, based on that. We can see all the emails, the list of emails, make sure nobody then try to do some kind of shady stuff. That's what that independent surveyor do. Make sure matter of fact, somebody's stuff got tossed out because I don't know how it got in there, but it was tossed out, and they notified us that they tossed it out for whatever particular reason. She found that it was some irregularity there, but she tossed it out. And we certified it, but she tossed it out before she sent us the final results. So it's pretty extinguished, because we don't touch it and until she finished with it and give it to us, and we certify it, because that's her job, is to go through it, make sure anybody try to do something crazy. And she's been with us for quite a few years, and she got a good handle on it.
What is some of the mess in Portsmouth that needs to be cleaned up?
Some of what now?
The mess.
Some of the mess.
You talking about that she found?
No, I'm just saying that
just to fix
Portsmouth had gotten the reputation of being politically messy.
One of the things I see is their citizens, I think, needs to be more engaged with the political, with their politician and the ones they have elected to serve them. I think they're not as engaged as some of the other municipalities, the citizens. I believe they really need to be engaged with their individuals they have elected to serve them, and that way some of the, because you have to have checks and balances. You got to be able to hold your elected accountable. And what it is they, and some people are not being held accountable. And so when they're not held accountable, they just run amok. Yeah. And so some of that stuff you have to clean up. I know that Portsmouth, we looked at Portsmouth and several years ago, Portsmouth was ranked in the top 5, was in the top 10 in the state in African-American male dropout. And so, stuff like we tried to bring a program over to Portsmouth and give them some resources to help reduce those numbers, because a lot of it was due to out-of-school suspension and stuff of that nature, and they rejected it. And by the fact, we had a church that was going to partner with us, and they rejected it. Oh no, I don't know why. I had one board member say, "Poor people are going to be among us all the time." Yeah. Yeah, so those are the type of things until they start holding those people accountable and say, hey, until they put people on that school board, city council, and say, hey, we're gonna hold you accountable. If you don't do your job, you out of here. And you have to mean business.
Any
Yeah.
thoughts, Con?
I hung around the idea about the poor people going to be around us at all times, but I was just thinking, as someone who would want to try to create policy, I wouldn't necessarily want to not do anything because they're always suspect of being here. So I think the onus would be on someone like me in Virginia Beach or someone in Portsmouth to still try, if that makes sense, to try to fix things.
Yeah, but one of the things you have to understand, some people I think what Martin Luther King said, we all have the drum major instinct, and we all want to be out in front. And sometimes you have people that are self-serving. They just want to be out in front for whatever particular reason. And King always told us in Georgia, make sure you're out in front for the right reason, for the good reason, for love, for unity, for serving others. That's when you want to be out there. Hold on just a moment.
It's live, y'all. It's live.
Yeah. But one of the things, like I said before, and I have opportunity to sit down with some of their elected officials, some who's not there now and some who are there now. And I had opportunity, the former mayor, who's mayor now, I think he'll go out January the 1st. I had the opportunity, Mayor Rowe, I had opportunity to collaborate with him also. And
all right.
I never did collaborate to find out why he didn't run for re-election.
All right. What's the issues that the school board needs to address in Portsmouth?
They really need to bring some resources that is going to impact their school division. I think that it's a lot of things going on in Portsmouth. I had people, I was over in I do a lot of work over in Portsmouth, and I had individuals that had various concerns about Portsmouth School Board and their school division, and the lack of resources, lack of quality teachers, going into the community and really making an impact in the community. And those are some of the concerns of the citizens. And some of the citizens will relocate to somewhere like Virginia Beach just to get their kids into a better academic environment. They'll relocate from Portsmouth over to Virginia Beach because of the condition of Portsmouth school division.
Wow. Well, speaking of Virginia Beach, Conrad recently had Jessica Abbott on the show. Jessica won more votes than the mayor. She almost beat in votes the governor.
And she was only off by like 500. It was very close.
The governor didn't run this time.
Former Governor Warner running for Senate.
Oh, you're talking about Warner.
Yep.
She couldn't have got more votes than Warner.
No, it was like
Yeah, Warner got over 2
120,600.
million votes statewide.
No, specifically in the city of Virginia Beach.
Oh, in the city of Virginia Beach. Yeah. And you got to understand that Virginia Beach is a conservative Republican town. And Warner was a Democrat. She should have, she's always going to outdo his numbers. Should. Yeah. And she got, how many votes did she end up with? Did she end up? I think Dyer got over 100 and some thousand, didn't he?
She got more than him.
She got like 7,000 more than he did.
I thought I didn't see them numbers, did he? Was that the final tally?
Give me a second. I know she cracked 120,000 because she had to train.
Yeah,
change
I know Councilwoman Wooten. I know she got about 125, 130. And I don't
want to challenge that. I'm going to look that up right now.
And I think like her challenger only had about 80 some thousand, maybe 85.
Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why did Eric Ray lose?
Why did he lose?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Eric lost, in my opinion, because he went negative. He went too negative. And he is I don't quote me on it, but I think that he's a Republican, but I think he's considered a Tea Party, way to the right. And in Virginia Beach, I think you can mostly win if you run center right. I think Virginia Beach is center right, but he ran all the way to the right and then used some negative stuff. He went negative, and I think that's what's damaging it. And, going into someone's background, this is what I heard, going into someone's background and digging up stuff like, oh, they claim bankruptcy and this, that, and the other, and people didn't appreciate that. Some of the voters were saying if she overcame her past, and she has overcame it, just like all of us got something in our past, and we can overcome it, then why should that affect us? It's not where you've been, it's where you're going. And I think from some of the exit polls, I was at maybe 4 or 5, and that's what the thing. He even had posters up there with his picture and her picture and checking off stuff very negative. And I think that's where in some of the Republican may not have said anything, but I don't think they wanted to go real all the way to the right. All the way to the right there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did seem a little bit more stringent on his conservatism compared to, say, Mr. Bobby Dyer or Rosemary, who, again, they appear to be moderates of their Republican parties.
Yeah, you have to stay center right.
Yeah, Jessica had 115.
No.
Yeah. And what did Bobby have?
What did Bobby have?
Bobby had more than that, I think. Did he have 110?
She had more than he did.
Yeah, I think he had about 110.
Link in the chat.
Now go back to Wooten. She had 102. I thought she had more than that. I thought it was 125.
She doesn't have 125, but she has more than 102. The Virginia elections website is updated as of November 9th and had Sabrina at 105,967. Eric was at 85,781.
Mm-hmm.
And if I scroll up a little bit, Bobby... Rosemary was at 111,000. Bobby was at 113,000.
Yeah.
And what was Jessica's?
Jessica was at, scroll back down to Kempsville, 120,136.
Okay. Then she outdid him.
The only one she lost to in the entire city, anywhere on the ballot, was Mark Warner, who had 120,753. So she was only off by about 600 people.
Mm-hmm. And you want to know why she got so many votes?
I'm very curious how she would get that much.
One of the things that she did was, if I'm not mistaken, she carried APAC endorsement.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yes, she did.
Yeah, and so that brought some of the minority votes over with her, and if you go into those numbers with that APAC endorsement, and if you look into the numbers, that's and that she brought some minorities with her, because they was pushing her.
Didn't Dale get a significant chunk of endorsements too? I think he got the teachers. I think he also got the police, which is weird because Jessica is seemingly the Republicans. I think he also got HRBC. Was that wrong on that?
He got HRBC, but the thing is, another thing that contributed to him was, who is Bill Dale? You know, a lot of people didn't know him. He may have ran before, but you have to be relevant out in our community. You have to be relevant. Either you have to serve on some boards and commissions, or be involved with organizations that's movers and shakers. And that's what I found out. If you're involved with organizations that's movers and shakers, involved with things, and even either if it's best, I've found if individual runs as an independent, or don't declare a party and run center right, you most likely you'll get elected, to me, from my experience. But if you declare, then you drawing a distinction. But if you say, hey, I'm an independent, and then you run center right, most likely you're gonna get elected. And because Virginia Beach is a Republican conservative municipality, and we have to understand that. And that's what happened there with Jessica. She got some of the minorities. She got the Filipino. She brought a lot of minorities along with her. That's what happened there, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so 120,000 votes. And, you know, if we look back, the mayor,
scroll up
the wrong way.
Mayor should only be at like 113. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in this one right here.
So why did Jody lose?
Because no one knew who she was. That's what it was. She wasn't relevant. And Bobby got the APAC in HRBC and other minorities endorsement. And another thing is, Jody went too far to the left, and they used it against her. And not only that, no one knew her. Who is Jody? I had people asking me, who is Jody Wagner, and what has she done for our community? And another thing I heard individuals saying, some African Americans saying, they believe Bobby deserved. They knew Bobby. They have interacted with him. And because he was only there fulfilling the expired term of Mayor Sessom, and he had all those crises that he was facing, they said he deserved an opportunity to prove that he can manage the city. Now, what I heard was, if he don't step it up, then if Jody runs again, most likely she gonna unseat it if he don't, really lead. So that's what I heard. The exit polls going in and out, and they were saying the reason they didn't know Jody. They said, who is she? What has she done for our community? That's why I tell people, you have to be relevant in the community. People have to know who you are, and some of us operate in silos. And what I mean by that, you have, say, if someone declared Democrat, but they won't go over. They don't know that our electorate is mostly center right. So you have to go over there and talk with them, and show that I'm here for the people, not just, I may have a D behind my name, but I'm willing to work across the aisle, and you can trust me. And it's about building relationships too.
What happened with Brandon Hutchins? You know, he came out very strong, and
same thing with him. Who is Brandon Hutchins? That's the questions I was getting. Who was Brandon Hutchins? Rosemary, we know. Brandon, we don't know. Rosemary, they know. Rosemary has been in the community. She has been to, in the minority community, working with them, building relationships, meeting them, and helping them with some of their community problems. And when you do stuff like I said, you got to be relevant. You know, they can pick up the phone and say, hey, Councilwoman Rosemary, I got this issue. She looks into it. She gets an answer. And she's relevant. Now, say like if Brandon would have been in the community, champion stuff, you know, not something really radical, but saying, hey, you know, we need to do X, Y, Z. We need to fix the drainage problem. I got an idea, and talk to some of the engineers, see what they can do. You got to be out there in the mix. Like you heard today, someone in the African American Leadership Roundtable. Hey, we got a flood problem here. You see what I'm saying? And someone needs to address that. I brought the city a plan to help them fix their drainage problem. Nobody want to hear it, but it would be less cost effective too, because they put $350 million toward drainage and our infrastructure for its drainage and sewage, right? And that's part of the drainage problem. And I could take a fraction of that with the plan that I was trying to offer them. And not only that, is to help our people that we have incarcerated reintegrated back into our community, because it was a company that was going to teach them piping and drainage and sewage training, and coming out of prison, and they would be doing the work. They would be oversighted, drug tested, a whole plan, and they could have paid their restitution, everything, and got money. They are taxpayers, the whole 9 yards, and didn't have to put $350 million to it. But they didn't want to do it. They said, but the plan is still out there, you know, and I still got contact with the company. Okay. Yeah.
Conrad, your thoughts?
It's not only that, what that? You had too many people in not in Rosemary, you had 3 people, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you?
Nadine was the third, yeah.
Huh?
Nadine Panicia was the third.
Yeah, that's another thing. Anytime you have one candidate and you one seat and 4 or 5 candidates, it's gonna be hard to beat the incumbent, because you got people splitting votes and stuff of that nature. Say this thing, that 21,000 would have went for Hutchins, Rosemary probably would have been out of there.
Then he would get to about 45%. I think he'd still lose.
You think he would have still lost?
Yeah, just based on this total, he gets to about 95,000 if every single vote went to Brandon, and she still gets 111.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, it would have been a lot closer.
Yeah,
it would have been a lot closer. All right, but it looks to me, when I look here, so Bobby Dyer, the incumbent, won. Rosemary Wilson, the incumbent, won. Beverly Anderson and Victoria Manning, the incumbents, won. All right. Sabrina Wooten, the incumbent, won.
Abbott,
all right. Jessica Abbott, the Wonder Woman, incumbent won. Right. In this race, the incumbent, Michael Baralucci, friend of the show, he won. Trinice Riggs, she won.
Yeah.
And she was the incumbent.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Dan, interestingly enough, lost. This is the exception to the rule so far.
Yeah.
That's the exception. We're going to go back to that. And then Jessica Owens, the incumbent, won. And so you can see in the city of Virginia Beach, I think because of COVID, And because most of the candidates really didn't have the time to truly campaign in a traditional sense. And we're in a time of COVID, this COVID experience, where we're really still trying to hold on to our traditional lifestyles.
Yeah.
So it looks to me like if you're an incumbent, and Conrad made this point earlier, if you were an incumbent and you had the HRBC endorsement, the AAPAC endorsement, and the
teachers
VBEA endorsement, you're winning. You're winning. And if you had the Police Benevolent Association, it may have given you a little bit of a bump.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like the police, nobody was really rocking with the police this time.
Yeah. Yeah. In the past, and I've seen people win without their endorsement, without the Police Benevolent endorsement.
And just look at the Rose Hall. Not to focus just on my race, but also the school board race. The two declared parties flipped the results, but roughly the same vote totals. There's more than just the base of whatever party you're running for. There's whatever parts of the community that is not a party that supports you, that also helps push you over the top. And
That's right.
I think over the top is like 102,000, 100,000 maybe. That is a magic number that you say, okay, that is someone who's going to be able to win. It's if you crack that amount.
So what happened here?
Dan wasn't really out there and really campaigning. That's my belief. He wasn't really out there campaigning. And another thing that he done was he switched parties.
He donated to Bellucci this year.
Yeah, but he was a Republican, and he changed and switched over to Democrat.
Hold on, wait. Are you saying that he joined the Virginia Beach Democrats?
I don't know if he joined, but he switched parties from what I understand.
He was on the recommended ballot, and in order to be recommended, not a ballot, it's a guide. There's certain rules to. He was on the recommended guide like I was, and in order to do that, you actually have to be a member of the committee. I'm a member of the committee. I'm proud to say that. But so was he, and you had to be voted on to be considered, and he had to. That's how that went for him to get on it. But he, as Mr. Ron pointed out, wasn't always such.
So he got a D and then caught an L.
Yeah.
And you know what? Between Jennifer Franklin and Dan Edwards, Jennifer was just vivacious. She had a lot of energy. And Vicki Manning and her team put out signs everywhere, and in Norfolk too. You know, those signs were everywhere.
Yeah. But one of the things with this one right here, Franklin is a Filipino, and they always gonna hold the line. And not only that, I was in line to vote when she was campaigning, and she was telling individuals she's willing to work across the aisle and work with the community and bring unity to the community. And so that was her message. Regardless of those other three that was on that ticket with her, four or whatever.
I think I saw you in line that day.
Huh?
I think I saw you in line that day.
Yeah.
That's
right.
All right. Well, let's talk about Luis Cortez.
Right.
He was in the group with Vicki Manning. So he had that name recognition. His signs were everywhere. I would assume he had the Spanish-speaking community.
Remember, he owns a radio station that's Spanish.
Yeah, he owns a radio station, so I'm assuming he owned the Spanish-speaking community. I actually don't think he did. I really don't think he brought it home. But Trinice, I don't remember Trinice doing a lot of campaigning either.
Trinice is the former president of the VBA. And not only that, what Luis did, I would have stayed away from that. Remember that equity when we was all down there? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I remember. So you're speaking about when the school board was trying to introduce and to certify or vote in their equity policy. Luis
Right.
Cortez was one of the people who said, "Nah, we're not rocking with that. We're not supporting that."
And so he didn't bring the minority, all the minorities with him, because once I try, if you saying that's just like telling African American, nope, we don't need no diversity. And so they said, if you feel that way, we can't trust you up on that school board. So we're going to stay with Trinice, who is for equity and inclusion and helping out and trying to bring diversity to the school board and try to put some things in place, bring more diversity for its administrators, educators, instructors, and all that. And really find out what's going on and why the school division is why is the suspension is disproportionate. It's just like I think his name Jerome Bell.
Yep.
Yeah, and that
he was on last night.
Huh?
He was on the show last night.
Yeah, and he it's according to what he's run for. If he run for something local, he would have a very hard time drawing the minority vote to back him, because the comment that he made during the school division, during that equity thing, he said that my boys is in public schools and it's no racism there. They ain't never been discriminated against. And
I think he also was against taking down the statue at the municipal center.
Yeah, and that's another one too. But the biggest thing was when he said that it was no implicit biasness in the school division because his two boys never experienced it. I think he shot himself. If he tried to run for something local, people gonna remember that, because that's just like saying, "Oh, I don't have cancer, Seko. I don't believe there's no cancer in the world." You see what I'm saying? And that's not true. Just because my two boys never experienced implicit biasness in the school division doesn't mean that it's none there.
Or maybe they don't recognize that they experienced it.
Yeah, how would they know?
That's another thing that some people say. And so
another thing is that his children are high achieving, very high achieving.
I don't care how high achieving you are. That statement, then I said, okay, then if you feel that way, then you telling me that because you don't have cancer, it's no cancer. And just like I think he was a retired senior chief out of the Navy. And I know I went in way before he did. If he tell me it was no racism in the Navy, I'll look at him like he's crazy. Because guess what? Because it's people like Admiral Grady, Admiral Gaskin, Admiral Johnson, and all of us that came before him. That's why he probably didn't have to experience it, because they took the blunt of it. We took the blunt of it. You see what I'm saying? So you have to be careful with how you frame your language. But what I'm saying is, with that, that's what happened there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I brought up the presidential race because Conrad and I were talking about that earlier, and we were specifically talking about the Libertarian Party.
Mm-hmm.
The Libertarian Party seems to get no love in Virginia Beach.
Nope, not gonna get in.
Why is that?
Don't ask me. They are not relevant. You have to be relevant. I keep telling people you have to be relevant.
Remember, in my first race in 2018, I got 3,000 more votes than that total.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a distant third.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that if more people who were dissatisfied with the Biden or Trumps would have voted for the Joe Jorgensen, then if they get 5% of the vote, then they have the ability to join the national stage. So that national stage would again go from red and blue to red, blue, and libertarian. I don't know what the color they are.
And it would probably be worth it to us as a total democracy throughout the country if Joe was also on that debate stage. Because we need to be able to know that there are other positions.
Yeah.
Than just Biden and Trump. And that, of course, probably would have stopped the shouting matches this particular time of year. But let's say, hypothetically, one day we get a libertarian to get 5%, and then the next time they're able to get a higher profile, then maybe we get a fourth that comes in down the line. Of course, this is all hypothetical. That would help to, I think, end a lot of the partisanship in terms of the hateful part of partisanship. You're still going to have Democrats, you're still going to have Republicans, but they're not going to be like there's only Republicans and Democrats. And that could, in theory, everything's theory, help it out.
Yep. I think that will work. And I believe that if they get it and it'll make people give the Libertarian Party a second look. Yep.
Now, what's interesting is in the fair city of Portsmouth, 723 votes.
And notice it went from 4% down to 1%.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay. Why did Mark Warner win again?
Why did he win again?
Yes.
And it hasn't been a Republican to win a statewide election since Bob McDonnell.
Yeah, 2009. So
and what it is the Republican Party, they can win all the rural area, but the biggest chunk of votes in that is from the Petersburg or that area, Richmond, all the way back up to that northern corridor. If you don't win that, you're not going to win a statewide election. And
is that what happened?
Oh
is
yeah,
that what happened in this House of Representatives race too?
Which one? That right there? No, Bobby Scott is the incumbent. You're not going to be and look how his district is drawn. You're not going to beat him. That's Newport News.
Here's an interesting question: would Bobby Scott have pulled that total if he was running against Madison Downs?
That's a good question.
I still think he wins, probably by about 60.
It'll be a lot closer race.
What would he have pulled 71% out of the entire total? Probably not.
I don't think so. But going back to the state general election, when you talk about your senators and your attorney general, your governor, the Republicans until they can master Bob McDonnell playbook, they're not going to. And you got to deal with that northern corridor. You have to network, build your relationships, and one of the things up there is if anyone from the Tidewater area runs on a statewide election. Remember now, the majority of those people that are Democrat or independents. And not only that, in that northern corridor, it's a lot of minorities. So they're going to look and see what did you do in your own backyard for the minorities in your own backyard. You ain't did nothing. Your report card is 0. Then you can forget about winning. They're not going to trust you.
Well, remember, McDonnell's also from Virginia Beach, if I recall.
Yeah, but guess what McDonnell did? When he was the attorney general and all that, he was working up there. He knew where he was going. So he rolled up his sleeves, went into the living rooms and kitchens of those people up there and built his relationship. So when he ran for governor, he was very comfortable. They were very comfortable with him.
All right.
And
what did we... Okay.
Go ahead. Now, I'm just saying that when he was the attorney general, he was this delegate attorney general. He built his relationship up in that northern corridor because he knew what he's going.
Can Glenn Davis do it?
Huh?
Can Glenn Davis do it this year because he's running for lieutenant governor?
they're going to check his report card back down here in that northern corridor. If he can't show where he's going to connect with what has he done in his own backyard as a delegate for the minority community, when he gets up there, he has to have someone that he has built relationships with, that he can go in their backyard, in their living room, and roll up their sleeves, and they say, you can trust him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what should we look like? What should we look at, rather? Not look like, but what should we look at in 2019?
Not 2019.
I mean, 2020, 2021.
Okay, you got your state delegates coming up. Yeah, you got your state delegates. So you got Joe Lindsay. Matter of fact, the first thing you got to handle is Joe Lindsay's seat, because Joe Lindsay has put in his letter of resignation because he's going to be a general district judge over in Norfolk. So his seat is open. I think he has about he represents both Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And so it's never been a person from Virginia Beach to ever hold that seat. And not only that, and I think it's only anywhere between, I think he only is only about 1,000 to, I may be, don't quote me on it, maybe about 1,000 Virginia Beach in his district that votes, maybe a little bit more. I may be off, give or take. It may be less than 1,000, but I know it's somewhere in that field range. So it's never been no one from Virginia Beach to hold that seat. So Joe is gone, and I know the Republican Party is looking for someone to run in that seat. And also, they're looking for someone. I know the Democrats, and not only that, the Republican Party in Norfolk is also looking for someone. So they both, Virginia Beach and Norfolk, on the Republican side is looking. I know the Democrats are looking. So the seat is going to be up for grabs, for whoever put their hands in the arena, put their hat in the arena. The other thing is, I heard someone talking about Kelly Fowler, 21st district. I think she's going to get a challenger this year.
She beat Kane last time, so I don't know if Kane would come back to run that. Shannon Kane.
Yeah, she beat. Yeah. What threw that one off was a comment that went out, some literature that went out that shouldn't have gone out.
I remember that.
That was negative.
And Delegate Askew beat Mr. Holcomb. So I don't know if Rocky would run again.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think Rocky would run again. But that's a seat that may be maybe they may try to go after that seat, the Republicans, because he's a freshman delegate, and they may go after him. The other thing is that, as you know, that the Redistricting Commission approved, and so that commission will be put together to redraw all the lines. And so when they redraw those lines, it's supposed to be as close to 50-50 as it may be. One of the hardest things it's going to be able to do with that redistricting, I don't know how they're going to do it, in the rural area where it's predominantly red, or up in the northern corridor where it's predominantly blue, how do you redraw those lines, to 50-50? That's going to be a challenging task for the Redistricting Commission. But also, what also is going to be a challenge is, say, for example, to get it to 50-50 or even, if you are, say, like the 21st district, Kelly Fowler, her right now, she's just in Virginia Beach, and I think she's just in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake. She may encompass now some of Suffolk or some of Norfolk. You see what I'm saying? Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. So, to get the 50-50 the way they want it, you may have 4 municipalities that you have to campaign in. So that's one of the downfalls of it. You know, you may have to campaign in 4 municipalities. If they, you know, if they redraw the line equitably and to get it close to 51-49 or 50-50. So that I'm interested in seeing how that is going to work out.
All right. As we close out, wow, this is almost a 2-hour show. This will be our first. What should the Black community look forward to in 2019? What should we gear up to? What will the Hampton Roads Black Caucus?
Twice we got you with the 19.
Yeah, y'all trying to take me back in time. And in the 2021, what we should be looking for, what the Hampton Roads Black Caucus is trying to do, what we should be looking for is looking at candidates that is going to support our platform. And what we're doing right now is right now our board members are assigned. One is assigned to each one of the municipalities in the Tidewater area, in the 7 cities, and so they're responsible for keeping an eye on what is relevant, or what is keep their hand on the pulse of the community, so we can get behind the community to support the efforts that align with our platform. And the other thing is it's a gubernatorial race coming up. We got to look at that. Not only that, we need to look at the criminal justice system. One of the things is the Commonwealth Attorney and the Public Defender Office, is the funding of it is a disparity there. In Virginia Beach, it's a lack of minorities on the bench. We just this year this year we just appointed the first African American to the circuit court in Virginia Beach history. Right now, we don't have a minority on the general district court in the city of Virginia Beach. We only got 2 minorities on the bench in Virginia Beach, one on circuit and one on JDR. So we still trailing everyone out of the 7 cities enforce our judicial appointments. So they looked at it during a special session, but they couldn't deal with it because the General Assembly can only deal with what the governor recalled them to deal with, and it wasn't judicial appointment. So in the new upcoming January, they should be appointing a minority judge to the JDR, hopefully, to keep our courts diversified. Because at one time, Virginia Beach was down to 1 African-American judge or 1 minority judge. So that's how far, we have, we're still lagging behind it. But are we perfect? No. Do we still have more work to do? Yes. But we need to watch that. And we'll be pushing that too, to make sure that we get that taken care of. And just look at our gubernatorial race. Looking at how we're going to do in unifying our city, unifying all cities, coming together, unifying, because one city affect the other one. What about transportation? We need to look at transportation and seeing how we can improve transportation in the Hampton Roads area. Who can how can we, all 7 cities got to learn to diversify their portfolio, the economics, because the military, if they don't keep their eye on the military with the technology and automation, the ships, when I was in the Navy, was a destroyer, maybe carried 350 to 400 people. Now it's down, because of automation, it's down to 150. So the new ships carry less men because of automation. So that means less people that is in your economy buying homes, pumping money into the economy. So when as the ships, they reintegrate these ships in there and take the older ships out and bring the new ships in, that's taken away from your economy. So how are you going to make up the difference in that? And if you wait and do like Charleston, South Carolina, when the Navy was trying to tell them, you better make an adjustment. They didn't do it. They pulled their assets out of there, and Charleston is just recovering. I think they closed the base in '95, and they just began to recover economically from that closure of that base. You're talking about billions of dollars being pumped in there. I'm not going to say the Hampton Roads is going to do that, but if we don't improve the traffic, we don't improve diversify our economy and work together in the 7 cities to bring in jobs, we're gonna lose out. We're gonna lose out big, and we have to make an investment into our future by diversifying our portfolio economically.
All right, last question, Conrad.
I would like to hear your thoughts on the positive outlook of Councilwoman Sabrina Wooten possibly becoming vice mayor of Virginia Beach.
What is her chance? What are you asking?
She wants to be vice mayor, and this is something that we haven't seen before.
No, we have not in the city of Virginia Beach.
Not in Virginia Beach.
No, but if that's what she's seeking and that's what she wants to do, then she should go for it and seek the support of her peers and the community. I feel that she can do it. That's the way I feel. She can do it.
So do I.
And the thing is, another thing is, Virginia Beach has missed out on some economic and people pumping in economics in here because our city wasn't diversified. And what I mean by that, I've had conversations with people that was in large organizations like the African American tourism something. They wouldn't come here because at that time we had no one on the city council that looked like them. The Noble Association, that's the African American Chief of Police or Law Enforcement Association. They was going to bring a conference here during the off season of tourism to fill our hotels, but guess what? They decided not to because we weren't diversified enough. And so we have to really open up our economy and I'm not saying this put anybody anywhere. You want qualified people in position, but we need to make sure that we get the best. And if we look at everybody across the sector and make sure we are diversified, I think we all rise together in that. But going back to your original question, I believe she'll make a good vice mayor. She brings a lot to the table. She's very passionate and she's very Christ-centered and spirit-filled. And for that, because she prays about everything that she does, and she seeks from my interaction with her, she always saying, "I got to seek God's face before I make that decision." And I commend her for that, because a lot of politicians they play to their base, but you got to go vertical before you go horizontal. And so she goes vertical first, and I respect that out of any person that goes vertical first before they make any decision that impact us or impact themselves. But I think she'll make an excellent mayor, vice mayor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Well, interesting. So you've been on the Beach Brothers show, which is also on the Hampton Roads Black Caucuses page as well. This is the good brother, the president. Salute the president, Ron Taylor of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus.
Hail to the chief.
If you're interested, go ahead. If you're interested in the Black Caucus, join us. Interestingly enough, all three of us, myself, good brother Conrad, and the good president, salute the president at the bottom, are all members of the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, and we would love to have you as well.
Yes, and it's nonpartisan, so anybody can join and get involved because we entrenched in all 7 cities. As you know, out of the 3 municipalities, and our members endorse people in all 3 municipalities, and only 2 out of each municipality that we endorsed that didn't get elected, and that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good.
I think so. You did mention that it's a bipartisan, but actually, I mean a nonpartisan organization.
Yes, a nonpartisan.
And look, I'm an independent. Ron, you skew conservative, and
Democrat.
all 3 of us getting along. That's what you can get into.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. Because let me explain something to you before we leave here. A young lady called me today, and was it yesterday? It was today, and her daughter was being bullied, and people were talking about her classmate were talking about jumping on her and all that stuff. And all she was looking for someone to assist her with this. She tried to reach out and everything. She don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent. All she wants is help. She don't care where the help come from. Relieve me of this stress of my daughter being bullied. You see what I'm saying? And that's what we have to focus on, is uniting. And one of the things that I'm working on with the Sunrise Festival is bringing a unity festival. When we come out probably a year from now, is doing a gospel Christian, gospel and contemporary Christian and gospel festival where we unify the 757, get all 7 mayors on the stage on the ocean front and unify ourselves, because and I think it's going to go well, and have it'll be something in the water. We're already working on it, and we're going to push it, and I'm going to keep pushing it until it happens.
Okay. All right. Well,
unifying
the beach. Hey, the good brother Ron Taylor, we the Beach Brothers, and you the viewers, we thank you for being a part of tonight's show. We got a chance to talk about, we talked about Sabrina Wooten's bid for vice mayor. We talked about the local elections. We mentioned demands and expectations for politicians, the Hampton Roads Black Caucus endorsements. We talked about the 2021 elections. We covered a lot, and we're looking for more people to work with us. So, hey, have a great night. Peace, beloved. Peace, beloved. Peace.